Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today I finally got around to trying out some of these ships that receive buffs in Update 13.1. If you don't recall, a couple of weeks before the update, Wargaming released a dev blog going over a whole just huge list of changes that were coming out in Update 13.1, and a good amount of these changes were buffs. And many of the ships that were getting these buffs were ships that desperately needed them, like the Hayate and the California. Among these ships was one that I was very excited to finally see getting some love from Wargaming after being absolutely just nerfed into the dirt by Wargaming a few years ago. And that is none other than the Tier 10 Soviet destroyer, the Khabarovsk. Now, before you click off, listen here, buddy. The Khabarovsk, I know it's Soviet bias and all that jazz. The Khabarovsk has been absolutely just annihilated by the nerfs that Wargaming dished out to it several years ago. It is probably one of the most nerfed ships in this game. Because, I mean, truth be told, back in the day, yeah, it was cracked back in the day, right? But Wargaming, in my opinion, over-nerfed it, and it's why many of you probably didn't even know, if you're a newer player at least, that the Khabarovsk even existed. Because you really don't see them around anymore. And it's not been removed, it's still in the armory for coal, it's a free ship, it's just that, why play it? You know, now that it's been buffed, you may want to play, but why play it when it's been so nerfed, and there's a whole line of ships that can do what the Khabarovsk does, but better, right? So, a little bit of backstory on the Khabarovsk, some Khabarovsk lore, if you will. So, again, if you are a newer player, you probably weren't around back in, when was the ship introduced? Like, Update 5.0 or something like that? Yeah, so the ship's old, right? So anyway, the Khabarovsk, when it was originally released, was an absolutely just insane ship. So it's a run-and-gun destroyer, meaning that you don't sneak around and toss torpedoes out. You run around and fire your guns, and you don't care that everyone sees you because, well, your guns are your main source of damage. And the Khabarovsk has, of course, Soviet-biased shells. And by that I mean they have a very good terminal ballistics and such. They don't have an arc like the American DD shells that, orbit around the planet once or twice before they reach their target. They have a very flat arc. They have a very comfortable shell ballistics and all that jazz. So the Khabarovsk used to run around at like 14-15 kilometers away from the target and just keep on harassing them with the never-ending stream of HE and AP. The AP on the Khabarovsk is quite good. It is in fact SAP. It's old school SAP. It's not, SAP as a separate munition type, but if you go look at the ammo type and port, it says like SAP 46 or something. So yeah. So anyway, the AP is great. You can chunk superstructures and extremities for like 1 to 2k a salvo with it if you can pin it. The HE is good enough to where it will be setting plenty of fires, if you can stay on the target. So the Khabarovsk would just run around and basically annoy the ever-loving crap out of heavy cruisers, battleships, and even bully light cruisers with the AP too, from 15 kilometers-ish. And the ship itself is also quite good. It's fast, it's agile, you can accelerate and decelerate very quickly with the engine boost, so you can throttle juke for days with the Khabarovsk. And that's what made it so good, that combination of the comfortable shell ballistics and its range and its maneuverability to basically just frustrate you into wasting your shells, shooting at it. And that was why it was such a great ship to have, go on the flank and harass the enemy team, because if the enemy battleships are trying to shoot you and your Khabarovsk, they are not trying to shoot your team, right? And they're probably going to miss you because you can stop on a dime and accelerate and stuff, right? And stay at 15-14 kilometers, so just out of range for, like comfortable shell performance of most higher tier battleships and cruisers. Like, if you're just within like 12 kilometers, I could easily shoot you, but now that you're at like 13-14 kilometers, I gotta lead you, and with how quick the Khabarovsk can stop and take off, you're going to, miss a lot of those shots. So because of that, the Khabarovsk went through a series of quite hard nerfs. They nerfed the range down to where your maximum range now is like 13.5 kilometers, which is, I mean, like at 13.5, yeah, you can still make it happen, but not a lot of targets just going to sit 13.5 kilometers away from you, right? You know, they're either going to push up or run away. They push up, and now they're within like 12, 11 kilometers of you, and they can easily hit you at that point. And then it's either they're going to run away, so now you have to chase after them, which that can still kind of work, but again, you know, it's not like it once was, right? And then they nerfed the rudder shift time. They doubled the rudder shift time just about. And, well, one of the biggest insults is that the Khabarovsk was stuck with the 30% battleship AP versus DD damage ratio. If you don't know, back in the day, all destroyers would, no matter what, only eat 30% of battleship AP alpha. It doesn't matter if you overpin them or you pinned them. They're only eating at a maximum 30% of those shells damage. So, for example, your battleship AP does 10,000 alpha. You shoot a DD, you get a full pin, it's only doing 3,000 damage. You might say, oh, that sounds nice. Well, it is, and, well, apparently it wasn't nice enough, and, you know, we got a lot more larger caliber battleships, right? So they changed it to a 10% maximum alpha damage received, which means that now you would only receive, of that same, you know, 10,000 AP alpha, you would only receive 1,000 damage at a maximum rate, right? So every other DD in the game except for the Harugumo and the Khabarovsk received that change. And I believe they changed the Harugumo to 10%, but they left the Khabarovsk at 30 for a very, very long time. Eventually, they did change it to 10%, which was a godsend finally. But yeah, imagine being the only DD that's eating 30% of battleship AP alpha, and SAP too. If it's, well, it's the caliber is 280 millimeters and above, right? So again, battleship caliber guns. So yeah, that change was applied in 9.11. Most of these nerfs were introduced around 6.8, 6.4, right? So we're talking, you know, several full patch cycles later. So that was a nice little pickup for the Khabarovsk in 9.11. But then, finally, now in 13.1, we finally receive this buff. After a time where you barely see the Khabarovsk anymore, you might be, you know, get some recognition as you are, you know, playing a test ship if you take it out before these changes were, well, even after these changes. I didn't run into a single Khabarovsk when I was playing the ship most of this morning. But yeah, no, people probably think you're in a test ship if they saw you in a Khabarovsk nowadays. But anyway, so these buffs, or I should say this buff is a singular buff. They changed the repair party with a specialized repair teams. So now, instead of getting the normal heal that you could get, and by the way, if you see a Khabarovsk taking a smoke screen, they're, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this, not the sharpest tool in the shed, because you can take the smoke screen or you can take the heal. So you want to take the heal. You get a specialized repair teams now that restores 225 HP per second for 20 seconds space. It reloads in 80 seconds, and you get 3 charges of it. So now you have a specialized heal with your Khabarovsk, an improved heal, a Warspite heal, if you will. So now this means the Khabarovsk can actually get in close and not be afraid to fight, you know, other destroyers and such from mid to close range, because you have the specialized repair teams to, you know, help you recuperate some of your health afterwards. And it is not, by any stretch of the imagination, a I'm going to win this fight button. It's not a super heal or anything like that. It just allows you to be a bit more aggressive with the Khabarovsk, because the Khabarovsk, for all of its positives I've just mentioned, it is an unwieldy beast, right? It still has that nerfed rudder shift time. It's got like a 12-second rudder shift time on a destroyer, and it already has a huge turning circle, right? So it's not very agile. You know, it's not like a Smaller or something that's great for fighting destroyers at close range. It can't do that, right? And then, like I said, they nerfed the range to where you're pretty much forced to fight these destroyers at close range, right? So now you have the ability to actually get in there and do destroyer things. No, I'm not saying you can go dive the cap and, murder all the other DDs around you. You can't do that. You still definitely need to play it from medium and longer-ish ranges. You just have the ability to not get screwed over now if you mess up once, right? The heal before was nice, but, it was a normal heal for a destroyer. It wasn't, regenerating a nice chunk of HP like this new heal is. So essentially what this specialized repair teams has allowed the Khabarovsk to do now is just be comfortable to play again. Like, you can take it out, you can do Khabarovsk things now, and you've got just a little bit more comfort in knowing that, hey, I can regen more HP now, so I don't have to be so timid about, trying to engage everyone at 13, kilometers. I can get in a little bit closer, I can play a little more aggressively. Hey, I can maybe actually go into that cap now and do cap things, because Khabarovsk beforehand, you just avoid the cap at all costs, because that's where the anti-DD cruisers are at, that's where the other DDs are at, and again, you weren't able to get into those fights and do well in those fights or win those fights, but now you have the confidence of, hey, I can go in there, I can get in there, I can be a bit more aggressive now, and it is fantastic. And again, like I've been saying, it's not like this has, made the Khabarovsk broken again or anything like that. It's just a comfortable destroyer to play now. And in my experiences playing it here this morning and last night, I'm doing, about average. I'm not coming top of the leaderboard every game. I'm doing well, right? Like, I'm harassing battleships that are alone. I am being a nice distraction for my team. I'm taking out other destroyers and bullying light cruisers when I can do that, right? And it's just a comfortable destroyer to play now, and it's such a relief that, I can take my Khabarovsk into battle now and not get screwed over because, well, it's been nerfed so hard. Even though the Kleber can do literally the same thing that old Khabarovsk can do and run around and melt ships down from 15, 16 kilometers away and still get the reload booster and the French damage saturation on top of all that. People like to talk about a Soviet bias, but they don't like to talk about baguette bias for some reason. Like, I'm not joking, like, the Kleber is literally old Khabarovsk. That's what it did. It just doesn't have a heal. It gets the French damage saturation instead. And it still gets the reload booster on top of that as well. So, yeah, what's up with that, Wargaming? If the Kleber can exist, why can't old Khabarovsk still exist? But, heck, I like the new Khabarovsk too now at this point. It's comfortable. It's a nice mid to long range destroyer. You're not sitting back out there at 15 kilometers. So, that is, something that can't be said about the Khabarovsk anymore. It's burning you down from 16 kilometers away. You still can hit it today, unless you're very good at throttle juking in it, which it's a fun playstyle too, right? It's a bit more, now with this, more focused on mid-range gameplay than long-range gameplay. It's a much more fast-paced, much more active playstyle than like old Khabarovsk when you, kind of sail around a battleship at 15 kilometers and melt them down. It's very engaging, it's very active, and if, you don't like playing battleships, you hate that type of passive gameplay where you just sail around and, fire your guns every 30 seconds. This is like the cardinal opposite of that. Very, very active, very engaging. You have to dodge. You have to mess with your throttle. You can't just keep sailing, in the same direction without changing your speed or adjusting your heading a little bit every few seconds, right? So it's a fun ship to play, and if you've got one, I would encourage you guys to take it out, see how she does now with this this buff. If you don't have a Khabarovsk, I'm not going to say it's like, a coal ship you should definitely pick up, right? But if you like this type of gameplay, you like what you're seeing in the background and stuff, I would encourage you to check it out. It is free, right? 240,000 coal. It's a little expensive, right? But at the end of the day, it is free. I would still definitely, of course, get like a Napoli first, right? But if you like what you see here, maybe check out some more videos on it. I don't know if anyone's uploading more Khabarovsk gameplay post buff, because again, I think most of the player base forgot the thing exists. But I like it. I'm happy I got a buff here, so thank you, Wargaming, for that. So right, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 75,000 subscribers thanks to you guys. We're halfway there to 60,000. We passed 55,500 a few days ago, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday and wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.